Good morning. How are you, Bruce? Overall?
Hi, Tristan. I'm fine. How are you, my friend?
Fantastic. Yeah, very proud to speak with you, sir. Veteran voice of the Octagon, energy expert, branding master, Mr. Authenticity, all-around nice guy. I've heard a lot of great things, so it's a true pleasure to be here with you now.
Thank you. I appreciate that. As some people say, don't believe all you hear. I say believe all you hear.
As if the man of Mr. Introductions, you would have received some great introductions yourself throughout the years at different events, and it must be nice to be on the receiving end of being introduced.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Listen, I always say the show is not about me. It's about whatever I'm representing or announcing. But in many of the introductions I've had have been very heartfelt. After being in the business of working in the Octagon for over 29 years, establishing a brand, establishing a reputation and everything else, it's nice to be respected. And it's the height of respectability when you get these compliments, whether it's from a fighter I just announced or an event I'm walking out at, such as, events I did last weekend announcing a famous comedian named Nikki Glazer, who's very, very up and coming. I'm doing the Preakness this weekend or coming out at the Formula One.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I was going to touch Formula One and see if that was on your bucket list or something you wanted to get involved with.
Oh yeah, definitely it's a bucket list, and I was very proud of the fact they called me back again this last year, which I did with my brother Michael. We first time we did an event together. My legendary brother, known for the famous phrase "Let's get ready to rumble." So every event has its own flavor, and I appreciate everything. I'm honored to be able to be hired, and honored to be able to walk out and do my thing.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I'd like to just touch the word gratitude here. Obviously, gratitude's a big part of your life, and I just want to hear your take on that word and how you apply it. And obviously, you're a very grateful person. But yeah, the word gratitude, what does it mean to you?
Thank you. Gratitude means everything, right? I'm grateful that I can be there, and if they're grateful that I'm there, then it's a kismet. It's a mutual appreciation and mutual respect. So, it's one thing you see people walk around and think, "Oh, it's a privilege for me to be here." No, a privilege for you to have me here. No, it's a privilege
Yeah,
for me to be here, right? That's the way I look at it. So, thank
yeah,
you for having
fantastic.
me appear for you. Thank you for having me on your show. Thank you for. It's a humble attitude that works for me.
Yeah, awesome. You're a lucky man in that regard. The energy that you must absorb and just get to bask in during each UFC event and all the different sporting events, just that high energy must be just so good to soak in.
Well, I feed off energy. I'm energy is a word that all of us, hear all the time, whether you're with somebody that has great energy, bad energy, poor energy, it dictates the feeling in the room. So I'm coming out with the energy to enhance that moment, or in the case of the UFC, the fighters and the fans, they're already at a high level, right? My job is to take them to that next level and make it the most memorable moment I can for them, aside from the memorable moment they had walking in the arena door. So that's my
Yeah,
job.
amazing.
I don't want to take them down. If I do anything to make less than they feel walking in that door, then that should not be me in that octagon. That should not be me doing what I'm doing. My job is to take them
Yeah,
higher.
yeah, fantastic. A man that knows what he's doing. In terms of knowing what you're doing and going higher, with your voice, your iconic voice, the power behind your voice, how did you develop that? Obviously, you've talked to Michael and you've been through your journeys over the last 21 years, but what is that key element that helped you grow that voice?
Well, I think a lot of it, part of it is genetic. My father was served in the Marines from World War II to Korea over a period of 13 years, and he was a drill sergeant during the latter part. When I was younger and I'd walk in a room, I'd go, "Hi, Dad." He said, "Son, project your voice,
Mm.
shoulders back, chest out, let them know you're in the room." So I was, working on projecting my voice, and luckily, as my brother Michael and I will attest to, our dad had the best voice of all of us, right? So it's a natural thing, but Michael, I never got really any advice other than observing my brother during times, and I didn't want to copy my brother. I wasn't interested in being Frank Sinatra Jr. I wanted to develop my own style. And part of that is, and I said if I didn't do that in the first 3 years of announcing, I would quit, right? I want to be
Yeah,
recognized as Bruce Buffer. Um, and and I'm also his manager. So with that being said, he gave me one bit of advice which worked. He said, just watch yourself on video. It's the biggest teaching aid you can have and the toughest to watch. So, but
yeah,
over the time in the show business, we have a term called reps. Every time you do a show, it's a rep. So the more reps you do, the better you get and you learn from. So it was a matter of over
and that
time. Yeah. I never,
often practice.
I took one vocal lesson a few years into my uh, occupation and didn't care for it and just said, I'm going to do this on my own. I'll find my own style.
Yeah, completely.
Stay healthy, take care of your voice, stay healthy. Don't do things to damage your voice.
Yeah, that actually is big. Yeah. And I've also got a lot of your interviews over the last 48 hours, and health is actually a big thing on you believe in it fundamentally.
Of health?
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, are you going to put low grade oil and gas in your car? You're going to put the best in your car to keep it running. It's a very similar theory. It's, in health and what we are is 75% of what we ingest and eat. It's 25% of how we train. If you eat like crap, you're going to feel like crap. True. You eat healthy, you'll feel healthy. Dealing with everything else you have to deal with in life, from stress to you name it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Bruce. I've got a fun question for you now. Have you been to Rome? Have you stood in the Colosseum and have you yelled out its time as a reference to the gladiatorial days?
Now, you know what? It's a goal of mine, and they were talking about eventually having, at one point when the Fertittas were involved with the UFC, of having a show in Rome at the Colosseum. I'm of Italian heritage. I've been to Europe well over 50 or more times, maybe even 100. And sacrilege as it is, I've never been to Italy. I'm saving that trip. And when I go there, I will be standing in the middle of the Colosseum without question.
Yeah, awesome. I'm excited for you. That'll be a great moment.
Excited for my
Yeah. Personally, my favorite moment watching you announce was doing the World Series of Poker a few years back there. That was that was just a shock. I'm like, here he is, he's into the poker world. But you're obviously a keen poker player yourself. I've looked at your tab, you're a final tableist at the WSOP. Obviously, the bracelet's a goal of yours. But yeah. Yeah, no, you go, speak.
Uh, I'm I'm a very avid poker player. I just played on a special YouTube show, a high stakes poker game last night at the Hustler Casino here in California, a cash game, and had a very nice win.
Yeah.
Last year I went to the World Series. It was the first tournament I played since before COVID. And it was the $50,000 entry high roller event against 172 of the best players in the world. And I final table, as you said, came in 8th, but obviously I wanted that bracelet. First place was totally on my mind. We all want that, but I made great money and very proud of that. But in the I think 5 or 6 times I've announced the final table live on ESPN at the time, it was a real privilege. First time I did that was back in 2005, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and then a number of times during around 2015 on. It was a privilege, but I just want to be able to do one thing. After I introduce each player, I want to say, and in seat number 9, me.
Yeah, that would be the ideal moment. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, I've been asked for the World Series, for World Poker Tour, and a lot of tournaments. I just did a game. I announced the game here at the Hustler 2 weeks ago, which was the $1 million cash game that each player sat down with $1 million to play, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, have you yourself got a royal flush yet? How is the luck? You managed to
Do me that again?
table. Have you managed to table a royal flush yet live? Is your luck been that good?
I've had like 4 royal flushes, of which 3 were online, and 1 was real, but it was not in Texas Hold'em. It was in a game called 7-card stud high low.
Okay. Yeah, awesome.
But it's only the best hand in poker, but very few people ever see it.
Where do you draw the line between your glorious jackets that you present in and announce UFC? Like some amazing jackets. I believe one of them was auctioned off, nearly $250,000 a while back there.
It wasn't
The
it wasn't
jacket,
a quarter it wasn't a quarter million. It didn't auction off a quarter million. I think it sold for around 12 to 20,000, the one that we had.
yeah, yeah, awesome. My favorite is the purple one you have. But if you thought about wearing those jackets on the poker table, trying to stand out, you seem to take a much more relaxed fashion approach to poker.
I take a very relaxed fashion approach to poker, trust me. If I made the final table of the World Series, I'd come out in a jacket because you prepare for that. But I like relaxing and good UFC gear, Lululemon, something very chill. You're sitting down for 10 hours, you're playing poker. I like to look sharp but comfortable.
Yeah, fantastic. I mentioned the word gratitude to you before. I just want to throw 3 more words at you and just hear what you have to say about them. Just
Sure, go ahead.
what intention that you hold in your life with them. Words being truth, strength, and love.
All very viable, all very important to life. Always be honest. Strength, I call it warrior spirit, right? As a martial artist, truth and honor, right? Love, everybody needs love in their lives. Absolutely important. Support factor, loved ones from a family, loved ones from a mate. If you can have truth, strength, and love in your life, these are three, along with some other very important uh, areas that I think are essential to life, for sure.
Yeah, fantastic. Do you have a legacy in mind? Something that you would like people to say about you when you left? Obviously, nice things, but is there a key legacy that you're building towards, or you're just living life fully as you go?
Well, I don't want to ever, I guess, as far as like after I pass away,
Yeah, I guess so. Once you're retired and gone out, moved away from the force, potentially pass away. Yeah, I didn't want to put death on your door, but yeah,
I would just like everybody to, I would just like to be respected and everybody to know that I always gave it my best. I always gave 100% plus, no matter how I felt. I've done the show with blown ACL, one leg, blown out back, 102-degree temperature, coming off laryngitis, but it's not anywhere to complain. Nobody knows the difference. I always get the show done. The fighters are putting their lives on the line. My job, I can always get through what I have to do. Um, but I just want to know that I have passion for what I did and that I always gave it my all. Definitely.
yeah, fantastic. And that is something, again, honestly, as an authentic compliment, I know you receive a lot of them, but from a viewer, you can see the authenticity, the passion, and the real energy that you put into each performance. It's not just going get doing a job. It's a brand new performance every time. And I know you want to share that with the young fighters. So that is a fantastic thing about you.
I appreciate you saying that. Yes, I'm an announcer, but I consider myself a performer too. So there,
Yeah,
fighters come in, they fist bump me, they get close to me, they interact with me. That in itself is a very grand compliment to receive. To know that they're getting that excited about me getting them going.
yeah, fantastic. Do you have do you have three people who are dead, speaking of death, from history that you would love to sit down and have a meal with or play a game of poker with? Any three historical figures that really have influenced the way you think? Or you just love to ask questions?
I thought about that. I mean, I would love to, have a conversation or dinner with a famous actor named Errol Flynn, who was, you may have heard of him. I think Errol's from New Zealand area. Very famous actor from the 40s and the 50s. Lived quite a wild life. Uh, John Wayne, would be awesome. Mostly, I know I'm thinking of actors. And then somebody I've known over the years, but never had a chance to really spend a ton of time with him, but we definitely interacted, was Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. I can name a number of people.
Uh,
Yep. One of my good friends when I was a kid and growing up in Malibu was a famous actor named Steve McQueen, who I knew for the last 6 years of his life. You may or may not know of him, but,
I've
um,
definitely heard of him.
yeah. So mostly people from the old breed style. Definitely.
Yeah. Speaking of old breed, in terms of the concept of flow, when you get into flow, I think the greatest I've ever heard an athlete express the flow state was Ayrton Senna, the Formula One driver, talking about driving around Monaco one day. And he just said that the car was an extension of his body. He was in another realm. It was the best day of his life in terms of driving. And it was like that flow moment where like, you just lose reality and you're there. Have you had that ever at a UFC experience where that UFC experience was the one that you go back to in the memory, the pinnacle of like, nah, that I was in the zone, the energy was perfect. That was the night.
Yeah, I mean, after a UFC, I will say, okay, I hit that out of the park, or I did this, or I did. I really felt that, I was one with the audience. Like he's one with his car, and the audience was one with me. I was one with them. The fighters, I was one with them. They were one with me. I cannot tell you the greatest show I ever announced because I've announced thousands, right? I can just tell you, thousands of fights, excuse me, and probably 1,000 or more shows. Uh, I can just tell ones that stand out, you know, that really hit it off. I mean, there was a show at UFC 100 where I was egged on by the fans and by Joe Rogan for about 6 to 8 months before the fight because you know how I move, I do the 180 and the 90-degree moves and stuff. As the night I did the 360 where I jumped up and spun 360 degrees in the air, came down and announced Brock Lesnar, the heavyweight giant that was so popular at the time and still is. That was like a personal accomplishment, but the audience, everybody it was just like, "Oh, here it is." That was a standout. I mean, there's so many events that stand out, so many great fights that stand out, so many great moments historically. We just had the Sphere event at the Sphere in Las Vegas. That was a very historic, monumental event, I think, for all too.
Yeah, well, honestly, Bruce was an historic, a monumental event for me. It's the first interview with someone of your caliber, and I just want to thank you. I'm truly grateful for the time. I really appreciate it.
You're very kind, Tristan. Thank you so much. I respect your respect for me, but I respect the way you handle yourself, and I wish you all the best success in what you do. Sincerely. Thank
Awesome.
you. Thank you very much for having me on. I'm honored. And
Thank you, sir.
one thing I do in my business, um, to try and get back a little bit, my partner Chris and I have a very big audio and video business here. We're on Cameo, which I know is down in your area, but at my website, brucebuffer.com, we do weddings and birth of babies and championship introductions and all this kind of stuff. And we're trying to, even though we have to charge, a little, that's our right, God given, but we don't charge what we could charge. And we're making a lot of people happy, and it really, I enjoy it very much. I like giving back as much as I can.
Yeah, friend, you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tristan. You take care. Big cheers to you.
God bless.
God bless
Stay
you.
strong.